even think about all of the shit I did to fit in. Past hard to watch like a fucking scary movie. I'm always happy to meet somebody that never knew me. Change for the better, hope niggas are living through me. I put it all on the wax so the people can know the true me. Hard to remain sane when the people you love the most is what's causing the damn pain. Y'all beef by the same thing, we ain't playing the same game. It's all for my family. She the girl of your fucking dreams, but to me she a plain Jane. You dipper and ball man, I dump when them calls came. This that higher level thinking. I'm the type to jump the fuck off of the shit before it's sinking. Not here for no new shit, my game slide to boost it. Ain't I don't have to prove shit, Rockstar fight the fool shit. My movie, this the new script. I want a life with no bullshit, nigga. I know on these news clips, that's why I dap him and move quick. Won't be around when they move switch, won't be around when they lose clips, won't be around for they lose lips. Might be the reason they pull shit. Yeah.
Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. You know, I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last.
Tough times do not last. Tough people do. I've heard that quote so many times in my life, and it feel like at the current time in my life is one of those times where I absolutely need to believe in that quote. But I hope everybody out there is having a dope day. I hope everybody's, day, night, afternoon, evening, morning, whichever point in time of the day you listening to this. I hope it's all going dope, man. I hope everything. I know how situations in life, tough situations, can have your mentals and things of that nature. But I hope everybody is doing great. I hope everybody is doing well. I appreciate you for clicking on this video, and we finna get real. We finna get into it. So I was watching. I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't watching ESPN. I was on YouTube, and I saw a video of Steve Young talking about Lamar Jackson, basically saying he believes that the Ravens are holding Lamar Jackson back. So that's going to be the topic of the video today, of the show tonight. Are the Baltimore Ravens holding Lamar Jackson back? Now, if you've listened to my videos and my shows early on when I first started, when I covered the entirety of last season in the NFL, I talked about the Baltimore Ravens a lot. I talked about Baltimore all the time. So this is an interesting topic, basically because I've said basically everything that, because Roman Reigns, I just got done watching SmackDown. Robert Griffin III basically doubled down on that today when he got on First Take and basically said that he don't think the problem is the Ravens holding him back. He think it's that Greg Roman is holding him back. But I would argue, who is employing Greg Roman? I even heard somebody, I saw somebody on Twitter today say, if you really think about it, at the end of the day, it's John Harbaugh who's holding him back because he's the one who makes the decision on Greg Roman. And I've heard it all. I've talked about it all. I guess we're finna talk about it again, all right? So in the case of, basically what Steve Young was saying was, why is Lamar Jackson, people question why Lamar Jackson not getting Patrick Mahomes type of money, and why people feel like he don't deserve that because he can't do what Pat Mahomes and other quarterbacks can do. And Steve Young is basically saying he disagree with that. Lamar Jackson is a 5-tool player, whatever you want to call it, is a complete player in Steve Young's opinion. The problem Steve Young sees with Lamar Jackson is not Lamar Jackson. It's Greg Roman. It's the philosophy. It's the offensive philosophy in Baltimore. It's the offensive game plan in Baltimore. It's the offensive coordinator, how they decide to allocate resources to certain positions but not to others. How they decide to go all in on certain positions and take risk on certain positions but not take certain risk at other positions that would help Lamar Jackson. And I believe it's a shit ton of factual points and things that you could point to that would make what Steve Bisciotti that would make what Steve Young saying factual, or at least have some factual statements in it. So I don't agree that the Baltimore Ravens as a whole are holding Lamar Jackson back, but I kind of do agree, because at the end of the day, it's factual statements when people say Greg Roman, he might be the problem, but who continues to employ him? Who continues to allow him write those checks for him and allow him to call the plays? I mean, at the end of the day, I said it last year throughout the season. Lamar Jackson shouldn't have to go to John Harbaugh, to the organization, and say, Greg Roman is not working out. He shouldn't have to go and throw his offensive coordinator under the bus. John Harbaugh and everybody else at the top of the organization should be able to look at what's going on in the field on a year-to-year basis and say to themselves, we need to make a change. We need to evolve this offense. It's kind of remind me of the Golden State Warriors with under Steve Kerr and under Mark Jackson. Everybody like to give Mark Jackson a shit ton of credit for what's happened in Golden State, but I don't give him as much credit now as I used to, because the offense is running Golden State under Mark Jackson and under Steve Kerr are night and day. Take KD away from that from the Steve Kerr team. They are still offenses that are night and day. I don't even think Mark Jackson, if he was still there running the offense, KD would have never signed with Golden State, I don't believe, because that's not an offense that KD would have been interested in playing in. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that Steve Kerr should be given half credit when I think when you look at what Steve Kerr has done for Golden State. You know what I'm saying? And I think he took it to another level. To me, this is kind of what this is. I think Greg Roman has taken Lamar Jackson in this offense as far as he can go. It's a reason Steve Smith Sr. continues to get on TV and talk about how Greg Roman starts off good and ends bad. How he always have a great run game, a terrible pass game. And the fact that we can continue to go in, year out, talk about how the NFL is a passing league now, but the Ravens continue to think it's okay. Oh, we being different. We run the ball over here. Bro, we're not winning championships at the end of the day running the ball. Lamar Jackson can pile up as many wins as he wants to. As many wins as possible in the regular season. But if you cannot make that translate when we get to the playoffs, which I'll get to that in a second because I don't even think that's on Lamar Jackson. But when that can't translate when you get to the playoffs, that's a problem. Because run first teams ain't the teams that's been winning Super Bowls. A lot of the teams that's won Super Bowls and gotten to Super Bowls in the past couple years have had great passing offenses. Offenses that can go get them a touchdown when they need it, when they have to do it through the air. And so I think that it's a lot of truth in what Steve Young is saying. I think it's been a lack of evolution in Greg Roman's offense. For one, you look at dudes running routes to the same side of the field. You got every receiver on the field and a tight end running all their routes to the same side of the field. You got receivers running the routes that will run where they can run into each other, not giving each other any type of space to make plays or to give Lamar Jackson clean lanes and clean windows to throw in. You run these. This isn't even an offense that runs these little short receiver screens and shit like that. But every time they just randomly decide to pull that out of the playbook, it's always usually a negative type of play. They've never had a number one type of receiver, so they've never been able to play the 50-50 game with a lot of the receivers, because that would be Lamar Jackson will probably throw interceptions in those situations because he's never had a wide receiver who can go up and win the 50-50 catches. He's got Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews ain't a receiver. His receivers have a drop problem in big games. I just don't. And like one of the things, and I'm not trying to throw any type of shade at Marquise Brown, but Marquise Brown couldn't beat the press. Steve Smith Sr. is correct when he talked about, I know some people be like, oh, he hating, he being hypercritical of Marquise Brown. But just, Steve Smith Sr. talked with a bit of a tone. But if you listen to what he was saying about Marquise Brown, he's right. That young man ain't never beat the press. He not consistently enough to be a number one receiver. So you look at the lack of, and at this point, to me, one of the biggest problems that I see in Baltimore is they're not even making an attempt to go out and get in the stat. Because I see people saying, oh, well, they keep going for number one receivers in the draft, well, they keep taking receivers in the first round. And, bro, go get an established number one receiver. You're not drafting at the top of the draft in the top 10 slots where you could land a Justin Jefferson or one of those stud receivers. So telling me that you pulled a receiver at the back end of the first round don't mean nothing to me. Joe Burrow didn't get Jamar Chase at pick 25, 26, 27. He got him in the top end of the draft. So I don't care that the Baltimore Ravens keep wasting first round draft picks on and I'm not, that's not a shot at Rashad Bateman. I hope Rashad Bateman end up becoming a stud. But until one of them becomes that, I'm not trying to hear that. Because people act like they drafting in the first 10 picks with pulling one of these receivers in the first round. The Baltimore Ravens are a type of organization that's good enough to where you are too good to draft high in the draft. So you should be willing and understanding that you're going to have to spend money to go get a receiver, an established receiver, like the Bills did for Josh Allen when they went out and got him Stephon Diggs. Bro, Russell Wilson didn't want to be in Seattle when he had a number 1 receiver and a number 2 receiver in Seattle in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Tom Brady left New England because they wouldn't go out and spend and get him a receiver. He went to Tampa Bay where they have Mike Evans. They had Antonio Brown. They now have Julio Jones, who I understand is not prime Julio Jones. And I understand Julio has not been healthy the last couple years. But Julio Jones is an established number 1 receiver that if you put him in the right situation at the back end of his career, and if he is healthy, I think Julio is going to be a hell of a receiver if he can stay healthy for Tampa Bay. And you get Chris Godwin if he's coming off an injury. But if he can get back into doing what he's doing, he is a first, second type of receiver. Lamar don't go into a situation like the Chargers where Justin Herbert, he automatically, when he drop into that situation, he get a Mike Williams, a great number 2 receiver. And on some teams will be their number 1, and then a Keenan Allen. Where does that happen at? Who get a Kyler Murray who gets a DeAndre Hopkins? Deshaun Watson who had a DeAndre Hopkins and a Will Fuller. I mean, you just look at all these different type of quarterbacks, young quarterbacks who had great young established. It don't even matter if they was young. They had established receipt. Jameis Winston had Mike Evans when he was in Tampa Bay. Hell, bro, I'm not that one wouldn't have made sense. But you look at all the different type of young quarterbacks who teams went out and got them receivers, established top flight receivers. Hell, Kirk Cousins ain't even that young, and his team went out and got him Justin Jefferson. Like, come on. Like, to me, it's very clear what Steve Young is saying. This team has not, and at the end of what he said, I loved it so much. If this is not going to be a team that's going to do everything it need to do to basically get Lamar Jackson to that level of a sophisticated passer in the pocket on a consistent basis, a receiver that can be a number 1, then he want to see Lamar go and do it somewhere else, because Steve Young is, to me, he pretty much where I'm at with it. Because I've been a Baltimore fan my entire life, so I done seen the whole era of Joe Flacco. That was the biggest era that I got to watch, really. I saw before him also. I saw the quarterback carousel we had before Flacco, but that was the longest era a quarterback had played through my existence of being a Baltimore fan. And so I saw how, Flacco's, you look at the weapons he had, they look like fucking Hall of Famers compared to what Lamar have. But I understand the context of which all of those, like, I'm not going to say, oh, Flacco had Anquan Bolton, when I understand Anquan Bolton had a great run in that Super Bowl run. But he wasn't he wasn't doing that in the year in and year out type of basis. The Derek Masons, the Pitters. The Baltimore had Torrey Smiths. They had a lot of good receivers. They've never, to me, had a true number. And Anquan Bolton and Steve Smith Sr. in their primes were number 1 bona fide receivers. When they got to Baltimore, I don't think they were that anymore. But you look at the lack of, I don't want to say attention, but Baltimore clearly don't hold, the receiver position as high as they hold a cornerback position, a safety position, a linebacker position, hell, a running back position. It just, to me, and then you have a quarterback, and what I think a lot, I know one of the things that Steve Young was talking about is, bro, Greg Roman's inability to evolve this passing game It's one of the reasons Lamar Jackson is getting criticism. That's why it's damned if you do, damned because Greg Roman's and like he said, they going right back to what they did 2 years ago when he won MVP, when they bring in more tight ends. You get rid of his the leading receiver on the team and bring in a running back and tight ends. And it's like, bruh, no. Why are you reverting back to this rather than trying to evolve this passing game when that is so very clearly one of the biggest problems and weaknesses of this team? But it's Greg Roman retreating to what he knows best and refusing to evolve. But how much can we continue to blame Greg Roman when John Harbaugh, who is an unbelievable head coach, continues to employ him, continues to not fire him? Just because he don't want to do it because the fans say do it, the media say do it. So I'm not going to bite to what everybody is telling me to do. Bro, you are legitimately hurting this kid's career. And I agree with Steve Young. The Ravens essentially are holding Lamar Jackson back. I imagine if Lamar Jackson was with Kyle Shanahan, they would have won a Super Bowl by now. At least they would have been the one. Because Kyle Shanahan is a dude who understands that he got a lot of great run plays he can get off. But he not going to sit there idle with a guy with Lamar Jackson's type of arm talent, knowing that he can get Lamar to an elite passer level with his feet. Greg Roman relies far too heavy on Lamar Jackson's feet. And one of the craziest parts about this? It's when I hear so many different former football players talk about Greg Roman's offense, one of the things that I never hear them say, but I wish they would say, because it's so wild, how the play action in Baltimore is basically non-existent. And when you have a team that can run the ball the way that they run the ball, why is Greg Roman so bad at calling play action plays? Like, why is play action not a prevalent part of Baltimore's offense when you have this type of offensive run game? That's what I'm saying. It's like he won't evolve this pass game. He won't evolve his own run game to make it even better. Do you know how Baker Mayfield got so many people on his side still? It's because he had a season in Kevin Stefanski's offense in which Kevin Stefanski realized, I can run the ball on any team, any day, any place, anywhere, with ease with these two running backs. And so the way that I can get the most out of Baker Mayfield is to call play actions off of those runs when we dominate and then get him passes to wide open guys. Now, whether Baker make the pass or not is, that's on Baker. But I can draw up easy plays for him throughout this game from play action because of how great we run the ball. Why is Baltimore not a great play action team? Because Cleveland with Stefanski, even before Stefanski, have been a great run team. But with Stefanski, you saw how they capitalized on the play action game. You see how Gary Kubiak's teams usually are great zone run type teams and how they capitalize on the run game. On the play action. You see how a lot of teams that run a lot of heavy run plays like to capitalize when they go to the play action. When they go to the air to throw it, it's usually for play action type plays because you want to capitalize on the fact that you have a great run game and people usually want to crowd the box and whatnot. For the Baltimore Ravens, bro, they not even capitalizing. Like, Greg Roman hasn't even capitalized on that. Like, that is, to me, what Steve Young said. I don't know how, if you sit down and really think about what Steve Young said and break it down, bro, it's to me, it's hard not to agree with it. Like, I agree with you. You can do it what Robert Griffin III did, what RG3 did, and basically say, you know what, I understand what he's saying, but I don't want to put it on the whole organization. It's on Greg Roman. But I also understand if you want into people like, well, Greg Roman is employed by yada, yada, yada. I get it all. But at the end of the day, this is one of the reasons early in the offseason and late in the season last year when the Miami Dolphins started making all those different type of moves, I was like, I would love to see Lamar Jackson force his way to Miami. He from Florida. I know he loved to go back home and play. I know he not, from Miami, but I know he liked to go back to Florida, be able to live in his own home in Florida on off days and shit. But they got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, a decent run game, Mike Gesicki at the tight end. Like, hell, I didn't even mention Tua, but look what they went out and got Tua in Miami. Like, I also think one of the things that's working against Lamar Jackson is that John Harbaugh isn't a offensive coordinator. He specialized in special teams, but he's more of a defensive special teams type of head coach. He's not an offensive minded head coach. So he have to rely on Greg Roman too. And one of the things that I think is happening is they still living off of the success of Lamar Jackson's MVP season. Like, I don't like it when I see people talk about, oh, Lamar Jackson is betting on him as a bad guarantee because he done got worse since the MVP season. Well, it's very rare that people get better after MVP seasons, especially when you have a unanimous MVP season. Like, I don't see nobody talking about Tom Brady not throwing 40, 50 plus fucking touchdowns like he did in his MVP season. Nobody's saying the man is declining. I know Tom Brady's a weird one to use because the man's still winning Super Bowls and things like that, but that's a team type of achievement. So I think it's crazy to look at, some of the... That's another thing that I don't really understand. And I guess people going to feel how they feel about Lamar Jackson. It is what it is. It's unfair how they feel. But, he cashing checks. So, fuck him. But this weird standard, bro. Like, he got to win a Super Bowl in order for us to feel like he justified... Like... You don't hear these standards for anybody else. It's crazy how I'm seeing people still go crazy at Lamar, but Justin Herbert I see him as a top 6 quarterback, top 8 at the least. Man's never been to a playoffs, and he's had weapons from the day he got to the. But see, what they do is when you got quarterbacks that you like, they blame everybody but the quarterback. Because I'm pretty sure you can go back and watch some games and some plays that Justin Herbert himself could have made that could have got them over the hump and probably got them to the playoffs. But because they love Justin Herbert, it's, oh man, this head coach made some crazy decisions throughout the season that cost them a playoff spot. Couldn't have been Justin Herbert. Couldn't have been him. I even saw people going to Keenan Allen throughout the season and after the season and in the off season. Like, it's I'm not surprised. But God forbid they actually pay attention to the Baltimore Ravens situation and see, like, oh man, Baltimore don't have a number 1 receiver. Baltimore don't really even have a number 2 receiver. They got Mark Andrews. They didn't have either of their running backs last year, Gus or DK. They didn't have a good offensive line last year. The offensive line was terrible. Oh, he keep getting hurt because he running around like this. He got hurt in the pocket trying to make a play. Like... You look at all the things that they so very blatantly don't give a damn about. Like, I was looking at, and y'all know how I feel about Mad Dog Russo, bro. I just feel like his antiquated thoughts, his ignorance towards players, his company mentality, his archaic ass thoughts and opinions. Like, I just don't feel like TV really need that. I don't feel like that's what the sports world really need right now. But ESPN, to make $1, is going to put anybody on there that can stir up some type of controversy and have them trending on Twitter. So I get it. But I'm not really a Mad Dog Russo fan. And I really think it was kind of disrespectful when the man... You can't make a guy get accurate with the ball. You can't teach accuracy. You're not going to just make him Dan Marino. Like, my guy, did you even listen to anything that was said? Steve Young didn't say this man was inaccurate. He didn't say we was trying to turn him into Dan Marino, which I would hope he's not trying to become a Dan Marino, seeing as how Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl, my guy. And championships have been Lamar has made it very clear that's what he's trying to get, Super Bowls. He don't care about all them records that Dan Marino get to run around and talk. It's so crazy. They changed the goals, too, because Dan Marino, a guy who never won a Super Bowl, I never hear them say he wasn't a great player because he didn't win a Super Bowl. It's so wild. But what Steve Young said was he wants to see Lamar Jackson trained in a more sophisticated passing offense. He didn't say Lamar was inaccurate. He didn't say Lamar couldn't throw. He said he wanted to see Lamar be taught to play in a sophisticated passing system. Not this bull that they've been running in Baltimore that they refuse to evolve or force Greg Roman to evolve. And then, like, some of the offensive woes last year was just so bad that you really could have fired Greg Roman mid-season. I really don't understand. You want to know what's crazy? John Harbaugh has dealt with this before, where he had to fire, I can't remember our offensive coordinator's name at the moment, but our old offensive coordinator he had to fire and let Caldwell take over. We won a Super Bowl that year. But for some reason, he holding on to Greg Roman as if Greg Roman got like some type of crazy ass seniority in this organization. I don't get it. Greg Roman don't even got a Super Bowl as a coordinator to have this type of you know, backing or this type of, you know, string. But I really don't get it. But I do wholeheartedly 100% agree with Steve Young that Lamar Jackson is being held back right now in Baltimore. And I don't think they intentionally holding Lamar back. But I do think unintentionally they're holding him back. I don't care about all the people who talk about, oh, he can't throw from the pocket and this and that. I agree with what Steve Young said. I want to see Lamar Jackson in a more sophisticated passing system with somebody who is going to teach Lamar Jackson how to play a more sophisticated passing type of game, because that is clearly not happening in Baltimore. You see all these different type of run concepts. You never see that type of creativity with the passing game. But it's a passing league. And you see so many different quarterbacks who haven't accomplished what Lamar done accomplished, have so many excuses made for them. I done seen so many people talk about the offensive coordinators that Baker done went through, and the head coaching of Adam Gase that ruined Darnold, and just so many different excuses left and right for quarterbacks that people want to root for or said was going to be good and was going to be franchise guys. But for Lamar Jackson, it's so easy for him to hate on him, and I don't understand it. I do. We done talked about it before, but, you know, that's the easy thing to say. Because deep down, I really don't understand it. Like, I don't understand why it's so easy to hate somebody who is such a good dude, it feel like, and it look like on the outside. And who clearly get better on a year-to-year basis. I don't know why people look at him and choose to root against him. I don't know why people ask that man to become a wide receiver coming out of college. I don't know why it's so cool to openly disrespect him. Oh, if he win 12 MVPs, he not a tier 1 quarterback. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know why it's, oh, you can't teach this man how to be Dan Marino. Like, I don't get it. Stephen A. with all his kind of Shannon shit. Like, I don't get it. It's like, I mean, I even said it last year. There were games where Lamar Jackson was just unbelievable carrying this team right before he got hurt. You rarely heard them talk about those games, and when they did, it was like, oh, well, you know, his passing could be this, or I didn't like that, and it's just like, whoa, wait a minute. Now he doing what you asked and you don't like it. Like, Lamar Jackson really can't win. But I do agree with what Steve Young said, because I've heard so many people allude to what Steve Young said. I've heard Kurt Warner break down Greg Roman's offense and the problems with it. Steve Smith Sr., Dez Bryant, Torrey Smith, RG3. So many people have talked about Greg Roman's offense being a problem, and yet Baltimore continues to employ him. They will not force this man, to make clear strides of improvement within this offense. His track record clearly don't matter. And I really think it is Baltimore doing that. John Harbaugh with his, I'm not going to let the outside force me to fire somebody. But I mean, my guy, we want you to win. We're not telling you to fire him to, you know, sabotage you. We want to see Lamar Jackson win. And I keep saying it. It's not Lamar Jackson's job to go to John Harbaugh or go to Bisciotti or Eric DeCosta and say, yo, fire Greg Roman. No, it's not. It's not Lamar Jackson's place. That should not be something he have to do. And since we're speaking on this real fast, I want to speak on the contract also. Listen, I don't think Lamar Jackson should play without a new contract. And I think he should be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Some people might say, oh, well, you know, Aaron Rodgers got 2 MVP. Bro, it's not about that. It's always been about who's next up. And if whoever is next up is actually a deserving quarterback, then you got to pay that man. People talk about Carson Wentz, but at the time of Carson Wentz getting paid, he deserved it. People talk about Jared Goff. At the time of him getting paid, he had just took that team to a Super Bowl or helped them get to a Super Bowl. While neither of them ended up being good deals, that they deserved it up to that point. Lamar Jackson has the, and I don't think Lamar Jackson gonna fall off like the other two did, but it's like Jimmy Garoppolo going up there and people saying, oh, he shouldn't be. Like, no, that's it. And Jimmy Garoppolo done been to a Super Bowl. Like, Lamar Jackson is very much worthy of a higher contract than Deshaun Watson, especially when I saw Mike Tannenbaum, I think on today on Get Up, he said, you know, your resume is the floor, your character set the ceiling. Lamar Jackson has character 10 times over. He has been a model citizen. He has been everything you want in a franchise quarterback, a face of a franchise, the role model of the franchise. Like, kids love this dude. People love this dude. And I said before, him being the face of the Baltimore Ravens is huge for the city of Baltimore. But Lamar Jackson deserves his money. He done proven it on the field that he deserved it. He done proven. And if people really wanted to go into these games and break down these playoff games that they love to just blame Lamar for when they don't do that for other quarterbacks, we could. But that wouldn't make a difference. It's like I said before, we could get on here and bring up all the stats that would help Lamar, and people wouldn't care because they would just go find stats that would go with what they say. Because stats is a hoe. They work for everybody. Like Flight say, they stay on the corner like a prostitute. But with that being said, I agree with what I basically do agree with what Steve Young said, in the fact that I also feel as though Lamar Jackson is being held back to an extent by the Baltimore Ravens because of their refusal to do anything about the Greg Roman situation. And I think Greg Roman done absolutely run its course here in Baltimore, man. I just think if you had Lamar Jackson with an offensive mind like Eric Bieniemy, Kyle Shanahan, some of these other phenomenal offensive minds around the NFL, it don't even have to be one we know. Just give somebody else a chance who was a more sophisticated pass game caller and see what they could do with it. Like, I agree. You can't tell Lamar Jackson at the negotiating table, yo, we can't pay you Pat Mahomes money because we don't ask you to do that. Well, that's not my problem that you don't ask me to do that. Pay me or somebody else will. Now, I don't think it'll get to that, but, we'll see. But with that, I appreciate you for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint. Tell somebody you fuck with them. Tell somebody you love them. Give my Dukes a kiss on the cheek. Give her a hug. You don't never know how long she gonna be here with you. I love y'all. Please, please, please have a dope day. Saint out.
I got the moves like hot sauce. Lil' mama taking the top off. I'm laying down getting topped off. After this, she know she getting knocked off. I know she loving the money, so I keep on thumbing and thumbing. She say she horny when she taking shots, so I keep them coming and coming. Now I'm putting dick in her tummy, scoop her up like I'm raking or something. You would think shawty red track, the way that she running and running. You getting dumber and dumber, you out here chasing the bone. After she finished from giving me dome, the Uber is taking her home. Tight.